Yeah, I like that transition. That's nice, Tyler. Is that intentional or accidental? Do that again. That was solid. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Stokastic.com NBA Deeper Dive presented by No House Advantage. I'm Dave Loughran at Lafayette_D on the Twitters. Adam Scher has quit. No, I'm kidding. He'll be back. He's Georgia, South North Carolina, something. I don't know. Who knows what he's doing, but he will be back taking a little break here for the New Year. But we got one of the best DFS players filling in today. You are in good hands. It's Rayen Patnaik, right? Got it? Got it?
You know, I've
got it a bunch lately. Okay. But you know him as Rimpack, and he's breaking down a 10-game slate with us. I don't know what happened with scheduling, dude. This should be an hour 15, but we'll make it work.
Yeah, no, happy New Year to everyone who's joining us. And yeah, we'll zoom through 20 teams in less than 60 minutes. It's a big slate. There's going to be news that breaks throughout the show and in live before lock. So we'll take care of everyone.
Yeah, and Nate D, yes. Adam lost at a strip club again. He is almost certainly still somewhere under the stage. But he will be back. In what condition, we cannot say. But he will be back. I'm glad to be doing this with you, man. I feel like it's been since last NBA season that we've done any other shows. So let's dive into this one. Before we do, happy to have you guys with us as always, very much so. Hopefully you guys had a great New Year. Didn't get too tuned up. I think I'm becoming semi-responsible, Rimpack, because I went out with my boys on Friday night, and I called an Uber at 10:40, and I came home. My wife was shocked, couldn't believe it, and the other two guys stayed out till close, which is like I don't do that anymore. And all I could think of the next morning when I woke up, I'm sure you'd understand. I'm sure chat understands this. Like when you're out, you want to stay out. You want to keep going. You wake up, you want to die. I woke up and I thought, thank God I came home last night. I think I'm getting there, man.
Man, I wish I could relate. I also went out with my boys on Friday night, and we came home at 4:30 in the morning. So. And I was up for the Saturday strategy show, but man, people in chat were like, what happened to my voice type of situation. Yeah. So what that led me to have a more calm and relaxed New Year's Eve.
I feel like when my daughter gets a little older, it'll be easier. But now, like with her age, waking up at 6 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's not that easy. And yes, old man syndrome, Laffy Helms said, yeah, I'm not even 36 yet, but I'm learning. The hangovers get worse every year you go. For all you like 25-year-olds out there, soak it up while you can. You'll be hitting me up several years from now being like, you were right. You were right. This is hell. But I just get a bunch of drinks in real quick, and then I feel better in the morning. Yeah, I figured it out. But anyway, because you're what? You're not even 30 yet, are you?
No.
I didn't think so. Oh, dude, when 30 hits, woo. We'll talk, Impact. Anyway. We got 10 games to talk about here. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. We appreciate it greatly. It goes a very long way. We're aiming 500 today. I think we'll hit it. We hit it every time, every single time, because you guys are the best viewers out there. And I don't say that I'm not being patronizing. I'm dead serious. I'm not Neil Orfield, as much as we love him. We trust you guys to get it done, and subscribe to the channel as well. On our way to 100,000 subs. We'll get there soon enough. And when we do, it's going to be an exciting time. But let's dive into this one. Pleasantries are done with. Want to make sure we get all these games in for you guys before we flip it over to live before lock. I think you got Greg and Eric going again today. But anyway, Chicago at Cleveland. And last thing I'll say, Rimbet, we got a few games here that we have to spend a lot more time on than others. So I think we'll be all right. Cleveland, one of them with Darius Garland, doubtful for this one. We'll start with Chicago, though, and then we'll really dig into this Cleveland team. I'll toss it over to you with Chicago right now. No significant injury news that we're paying close attention to. So this one is probably a lot more clear-cut than the other teams we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, no, the Chicago team, it's kind of when all the big three is healthy, you kind of just look at them and you kind of move on type of situation. When that's the case, I like my favorite one to target has been Zach LaVine. It worked out the night where he had a massive, I think, 44-point game the other night on a Friday night, I believe. And they were disappointing on Saturday, but it's kind of the big three situation here. This team's not getting much ownership across the three sites, but I can't argue if you want to get above the field on per se LaVine at 7,400, 7,500 on FanDuel. I think he's a fine option to go to. DeRozan's priced around his ceiling. We really need an outlier performance from him to pay off that type of price tag on a 10-game slate, there's a lot of other teams, a lot of other studs where DeRozan's so scoring dependent. You just need a lot of things to go right for him to pay off such a extreme price tag for DeRozan. But Vooch, and it's kind of a tough spot against the Jared Allen defense. He always has tournament upside, but he's never like the go-to guy, right? It's DeRozan and LaVine, and he kind of plays third fiddle. If you want to sprinkle in some of the backcourt and Ayo Dosunmu or Caruso, sure, but not that exciting. Dosunmu comes in sub 4K, while Caruso is 4,600 on FanDuel. Maybe you really need a lot of those peripheral stats for them to pay off, but it's an overall sub like LaVine, and then it's really everyone else kind of just falls under the radar. Can certainly one or two guys pay off their salary in a Cleveland spot? Maybe, but it's not the greatest matchup for this team.
No, not at all. But on Cleveland, and with Darius Garland, look, with him doubtful to play, I know Mitchell didn't. I know Mitchell wasn't particularly effective last game with Garland out, but Karis LeVert is going to play big minutes, presumably as a starter here. He's getting a ton of ownership, though. We'll get into that. But again, you're talking about a $4,800 price point, so it lines up. You're not paying a premium on him. Garland's only been out of game, so you haven't really seen a considerable adjustment in salary. I think you could say something similar for Mitchell. Like if Garland didn't play all season, Mitchell's probably 10K here, but who knows? Maybe last game shakes some people off of him a little bit. Ultimately, though, his per minute production rises a little bit. Usage doesn't come up a ton without Garland, but the assist rate Rimpak sees a pretty significant spike, like 8-9% spike with Garland off the court this season.
Yeah, no, Garland being out is a pretty significant opportunity for Karis LeVert, and the ownership's coming in rightfully so, $4,700. He's still in play at $6,200 in my opinion against this Chicago team. Another one to keep an eye on is the Evan Mobley questionable situation. I believe he did go to shoot around, so that usually is the step forward in playing. So keep an eye on that situation. If Mobley plays, I certainly think you can play Mobley at 6,300 on DraftKings, not ought to play at 6,900. This Cleveland team, because of Garland missing, is very appealing. I know Mitchell's coming in with some ownership. I think it's spot on. I prefer Mitchell to DeRozan. I mean, 9K for Mitchell, no Garland. It makes a lot of sense. 8,900 on FanDuel is an outstanding price tag with no Darius Garland tonight. A lot of usage should flow through LeVert, Mitchell, and even Mobley should get an uptick as the usage flows down. I think Jared Allen's rates stay similar. You're really hoping for blocks on FanDuel to pay off at 7,700. If you fall on him at 6,600 on DraftKings, yeah, I don't mind it. This Cleveland team, much more preferable than the Chicago team.
Yeah, no question. And like with Allen, you're not really getting a significant boost in usage or anything. Like you said, you're looking for defensive stats and rebounds. But Mitchell here, I know that the numbers he's played 6 games without Garland this season. Garland's missed, I think, 7 or 8, but Mitchell was absent for 1 or 2 of those. The rates that, 30+% usage, 30% assist rate in those spots, 1.28 DraftKings points per minute. And he's going to play a ton of, what, that's the thing about this team though, Rimpak, is Mitchell and LeVert. I mean, we should expect them to play very big minutes. This is not exactly a team where the coach runs them out there and plays them, low 30s in minutes each night, particularly when you're missing one of your key starters.
Yeah. And I personally think for LeVert in this specific role for tonight, he's $2,000 too cheap. He makes for a slam dunk play. I mean, it seems foolish to move off of that. I know ownership's going to be high, but he looks outstanding. I mean, LeVert and Mitchell could combine for 40+ shots tonight, and it's just such a safe starting point.
Absolutely. Anything else for Cleveland?
No, just keep an eye on the starting lineup if something happens with Mobley, but I expect Mobley to play. You mentioned it. Usually when these guys go through shoot around, they're more probable than questionable. So yeah, right now it's safe to assume that he's going to be in. We'll see. Let's talk about the Lakers and Charlotte Hornets though. Lakers 1-point dogs going up against this Hornets team. Like I said, we're going to have some very interesting games. We're going to have some games that are less interesting. This one, though, you do have some spots for the Lakers that we definitely need to talk about. It's also one of those slates where like you have Luka, you have Jokic, you have Embiid, who's questionable. We'll pay attention to that with lower back soreness. Of course, like you look at some of the other high-priced players, no Anthony Davis, no Steph Curry, but LeBron James coming in at one of those low 10K price points. He's getting a lot of ownership today, almost 27% against the Charlotte team. And I don't think it's shocking when you consider there's still no AD, and this game has a 243-point total in a clear, fast-paced matchup against the poor defense. Yeah, and this Lakers and Charlotte team had a pretty outstanding fantasy matchup last week as well. LeBron came off his birthday, he was awesome on his birthday. I know that was a narrative chase, and I chased it luckily, but I think LeBron at 10-3 and 10-8 certainly makes a solid option. There's solid value to get him in there. I think LeBron has 60 plus fantasy upside against the Charlotte team. The matchup should go back and forth. Only $46 on Yahoo. LeBron looks like one of my favorite studs to play on this slate. Then we get this Russell Westbrook situation at 7-5 and 8K. The minutes were kind of all over the place. Then he's been producing. It's kind of been back and forth where I'm looking to kind of pivot off of that potential ownership. 8K on FanDuel seems a little too high for my liking just because the minutes could be 25. I really want my players to play 30 plus minutes in my lineups a lot of times. But Westbrook's such an outlier guy in terms of fantasy production. He can pay that off in 24, 27, 28 minutes. He's outstanding. And then I think my next favorite Laker might be to target. I think Thomas Bryant's certainly fine to go to. I think there are better options on this slate. You really want that double-double bonus. I've been chasing Dennis Schroeder of late. He should be producing better than what he has been, it feels like. It's been difficult to keep on going back to him as he's not been able to pay off this price tag consistently. But in a Charlotte matchup, he's coming in sub 5% owned. I would rather just save up for a guy like Schroeder than Pat Bev. That's kind of my opinion here. I think Schroeder has a higher upside.
You have to wonder though, with this price point on Westbrook, even since Davis has been out, this most recent time, he has 150-point game. He had the 43, but then a bunch of just low 30 fantasy point games, as you mentioned. He's cracked 30 minutes in one of those.
Yeah, that's my thing. I mean, he's getting some ownership right now. The matchup is solid, but I think I'd be willing to come in a little bit under this field or kind of way under the field. I think there are better options that are priced around him.
I agree. And it's not like he's super chalky at 12%, but that price point is it's kind of expensive when you if this was Westbrook a couple of years ago, we are just snap playing him in every lineup at that price. It's not. And the minutes are volatile. So I'm with you there. That's a really uncomfortable spot. But I think we both agree. LeBron James, the clear top option here. I'd follow it by Thomas Bryant before I get to Westbrook, I think.
Yeah, I think Thomas Bryant if I was going to roster a second Laker, it would be Thomas Bryant over Russ. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think Bryant's minutes are a bit more safer. The upside is kind of greater. Yes, your opportunity cost is a center spot. And yeah, there's a guy named Nikola Jokic on the slate. So it's an opportunity cost type of play there.
Yeah, it is. And then you also have Clint Capella still out. We'll get into that as well. I mean, what did Okongwu play what did he play 43 minutes last game or something like that?
Yeah.
I know John Collins was in foul trouble. We'll talk about that, but let's talk about Charlotte first. So Hornets on the other side, 1-point favorite. These are two of the higher implied totals on the slate. So sometimes you're not going to get insane ownership just because there are, there's just a lot of guys, a lot of mouths to feed, but Hornets do have the second highest implied total on the slate behind only the Brooklyn Nets today. They're at 122.5.
Yeah, this Charlotte team is fun to target in terms of fantasy perspective, especially against the Lakers on the other side. I love going to LaMelo Ball at 10K. That $9,700 FanDuel price tag makes a lot of sense there as well. He's been outstanding, and I know people might see this 5-figure price tag on LaMelo Ball. I think he might have pulled that off once last season, or maybe he has maybe been 10K once in his career or something like that. But I think he's for real, man. I'm willing to get above the field on that price tag even tonight. Only $39 on Yahoo seems like a strong foundational build over there. LaMelo Ball is one of the better spend up options on the slate in a great matchup environment. Like you said, the totals there. And then I like sprinkling Rozier and Gordon Hayward. I also like getting above the field on those two players as well. They're certainly going to shoot the ball. I'm hoping for Hayward to get a little bit more usage as the season transpires if he doesn't get hurt. 5,700 and 6K on DK and FanDuel respectively. Both Rozier and Hayward look like solid tournament options to get above the field on.
What about McDaniels?
He's the type of player who I like to get under the field on. The team's missing Kelly Oubre. You're really hoping, just like his brother, to have these outlier steals and blocks games and rebound games. I mean, they're the same breed. And I know he's been getting more minutes. It's a Lakers matchup where those certainly can come in his favor, but I want to look elsewhere type of situation. The price, I think is appropriate. And that's how I feel about McDaniels today.
Okay. Yeah. Definitely one of those spots where you can kind of just mix and match within this game because you have 2 bottom 8 defenses, 2 top 8 pace teams. So it aligns for it for a big game. It's just with Charlotte, and I agree with LaMelo, you don't have to do much to get over the field. We've got him at 9% right now. But yeah, it might just be one of those spots where it's harder to pinpoint where the best plays are coming from Charlotte, given the price points. And as you mentioned, Oubre out. But it feels like this is one of those games where at the end of the night, you'll probably want pieces of it.
Agreed. And I didn't mention PJ Washington. He's one of those sneaky players that it won't take much to get above the field on. And he has fantasy upside. I know we haven't seen him much of late, but there are stretches where he can put up 40 fantasy points. And I'll take 40 fantasy points at 5'8". Sure, right now we haven't projected for just under 30, but he can definitely put that up in a Lakers matchup.
Julio said, Rimpack, what software do you use for your process? Excel, R, ?
So yeah, no, I definitely use a lot of Fantasy Cruncher to start off things. And then it does transpire for sport to sport for a little bit of Excel, sometimes R. It's kind of a combination of all three at times. It also comes down to how much time I have left. And Fantasy Cruncher, I mean, they have a great late swap optimizer feature, which eases the process quite a bit. But there's so many good ways to incorporate your process. To play DFS, there's not only one correct way to play in my opinion.
Vinny C with a super chat. How do you feel about setting a group with Bryant at center only with LeBron? If you have LeBron spending up for Nikola Jokic, not as likely, right? Well, that's sometimes where Fantasy Cruncher and good projections come into play because it'll do the work for you. You don't have to make those decisions.
Yeah, we do have a 3-day trial, or actually a 5-day trial, I believe. So, but
Cruncher's not included, but the lineup generator is.
Yes. I don't think I'm more of like an anti-groups person. If I were to go ahead and like see how that's done, it's probably been even in terms of my results. So I don't think you need to make a rule. I think you can play Bryant on its own. You can play Bryant without LeBron. You can play Bryant with LeBron. It really comes down to who else are you playing in your lineup? Like, are you playing a third Laker? That's when I'm like a little hesitant to see that type of outcome. But it really depends on who that third Laker is. What the rest of your lineup construction looks like. It's not like Thomas Bryant's a starting point. I just don't think you should be forcing in Bryant only with LeBron. There are ways Bryant can be really good and LeBron can be just okay in this type of matchup.
Absolutely. And there's no real, you don't benefit from only playing them together. So let's talk about Toronto though. Talk about the Raptors, 1.5 point dogs against the Pacers, 232.5 total. You know, this game, if Van Vliet was just good to go, I honestly don't know how much we'd be talking about it, even though it's not a bad spot at all against Indy. But there'd be pieces here, no question, but I'm not sure how much. Now, if Fred Van Vliet doesn't play, because he'd been questionable throughout the day over the last 2 games, and then he ended up getting ruled out for those as well. Now we got these alerts coming in. D'Angelo Russell's questionable. We'll get into all that, but if Van Vliet sits, it's still kind of tough because Nick Nurse has been mixing up the starting lineup lately. Like we saw Hernan Gomez start. We saw Gary Trent now coming off a monster game after coming off the bench before that. What do you think if Fred Van Vliet sits outside of Siakam, who absolutely benefits, leads the team with assist rate with Van Vliet off the floor this season, and he's just going to play 40+ minutes every game, barring an injury or foul trouble. How do you break this team down if Fred Van Vliet is absent again?
So Fred Van Vliet's going to be out today. My eyes obviously going to go to Siakam, OG,
Wait,
Scotty Barnes. No, if he is out.
Oh, okay.
If he's out, I'm all about getting above the field on Gary Trent, Scotty Barnes, Siakam, and then OG. Just the way I think like the usage could transpire there. Now, who Nick Nurse will start? My guess is as good as yours. I think there's a non-zero chance that we could see if Precious Achiuwa plays, he could potentially start in a Miles Turner matchup on the other side, or a Christian Koloko start for Turner on the other side. It really becomes really difficult for me to get any interest outside of like the 4 guys like Trent, Barnes, Siakam, and OG if we do get a different starting lineup, just because I know the minutes are going to be sucked up to those 4 guys. They're all going to potentially play mid to high 30s minutes. And the usage is going to be those 4 guys. It really makes me difficult to get to anyone else if Van Vliet's out. Now, if Van Vliet's in, you can certainly play Van Vliet in an Indiana spot, and Siakam looks outstanding as well. But this Toronto team, it's the Van Vliet. You got to keep an eye on the Van Vliet news. OG is getting the most ownership right now on DraftKings, and I believe also on FanDuel. He's $7K over there on FanDuel, $6,400 on DraftKings. He's a fine play. I also think it's worth paying up for Scotty Barnes as well in this type of matchup. I know he's going to come in a bit under owned, but if there's no Van Vliet, Barnes can certainly put up a number against Indy tonight. So, and it's a good team to get above the field on, in my opinion, just because of how concentrated the minutes are and the usage will be.
Yeah, especially if Van Vliet's out, because like you said, you can't get to a Malachi Flynn on this team with any confidence. At least you can't get to a Koloko. He's gonna even if he starts, he plays 20 minutes. And then if Precious Achiuwa is in, but he hasn't played, I think it was like since November 9th. It does. It all comes down to the big four. And I think you make a lot of sense there. You could get exposure to all of those guys given the insane playing time and just a pretty heavy concentration of usage for the most part as well, that I don't think there's any issue with it. Would you, I know you don't set groups, or I don't know about your limits, but would you be comfortable having, because Trent's pretty cheap. OG's, 64 on DraftKings. Barnes is sub 7K. How many Raptors would you be comfortable having? Not how many would you limit, but how many would you be okay with for someone that's hand building and not crunching?
Now, if Van Vliet is out, I think I can get up to 3. I'm completely fine with that. Van Vliet's in. I'll probably get a little queasy seeing 3 Raptors in my lineup, even though it's a good indie spot. Look, Gary Trent Jr. is 2 different plays tonight. He's $5,300 on DraftKings. He's $7K on FanDuel. So I just don't think I'll get much of Gary Trent Jr. if Van Vliet is in on FanDuel. So I'm not too worried about that situation there. But I think it's 3 if Van Vliet's out, and it's 2 if Van Vliet's in.
What about the Pacer side of this one? Aaron Naismith, we have at 16%. Turner up in that 15% range as well. Halliburton only at 3%, but we know he's one of the best playmakers in the league. The only thing that kind of sucks about Halliburton, and I'll let you run with this since we are getting through 10 games in an hour here. I think we're pacing this all right, though. The only thing with Halliburton is that so many of these other guys in that price range are playing a consistent, 38 minutes a night, 39 minutes a night. Whereas with Halliburton, you're always running that chance of getting the 34, 33 minutes, which still isn't bad. But with some of the way some of these rotations work, these higher priced players, many of them are playing like Pascal Siakam type minutes.
Yeah, and that makes things difficult to go to Halliburton. I think he's priced appropriately for his role. I don't think it's 9.3, 9.8. I don't think I'll get much of him. If you want to play Halliburton, you can certainly do so at $37 on Yahoo. But on DraftKings and FanDuel, I don't even know if I'll even get that much above the field. And he's getting like sub 4% ownership on both sites right now. He certainly, for that reason alone, makes for an awesome tournament play. But we've touched on LaMelo Ball, who I think has a better matchup in ceiling. And I'm concerned, Toronto can throw multiple great wing defenders at him and bother him. So it might be a little less scoring output game for Halliburton, more of a facilitation game, trying to see how Nick Nurse is going to try to defend him. But yeah, and we've touched on it. I think there are much better studs priced around him that have a much higher ceiling and better matchup.
How else do you want to approach the Pacers tonight?
I think I've always had interest in Miles Turner, 6,400. I know the minutes kind of are a little inconsistent. We don't see him play much over 30 plus minutes that consistently, but 6,400 on DraftKings, he certainly has an upside. 7,400 on FanDuel, it's a little different story. You really want him to get those blocks, but not real much interest on this Pacers team. They're no real usage guy who I'm looking forward to going to above the field on. Maybe Turner I get with the field. Andrew Nembhard's getting quite a bit of ownership right now, 18.5% on FanDuel. Yeah, no thanks for me. I know he had some good games with the Halliburton's out, but I don't think I can go to him at that type of ownership tonight.
Well, this team is fully healthy.
Yeah, we have like
tough on a 10-game slate when a team is entirely healthy.
Yeah, and that makes things awfully difficult here. And where Rick Carlisle runs his rotation, it doesn't really favor anyone in this type of spot. There'll be slates where we'll go get above the field on the Pacers, but tonight's not the night.
All right, let's keep it going then. We'll go to New Orleans and Philly. We just got word that Maxi's going to continue playing off the bench. for the near future, returning from that foot injury. He was sidelined for a decent amount of time. But we'll start it with the Pelicans here. Still no Brandon Ingram. Larry Nance is out as well. Man, the Pels might have the lowest aggregate ownership of any team on the slate. We don't have a single guy projected for north of 1%.
Yeah, this is kind of a tournament team across the board. You can get above the field on any one of these players pretty reasonably. So
by playing them twice.
Zion Williamson's outstanding option, I think, though, at 9,710K, just because of the upside he has. Didn't McCollum light this team up the other night for like 11 3-pointers?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually at the bar watching this game, and yeah, Philly got off to an early start and then just collapsed. Zion was 13 for 19, got to the line 16 times. And in that same game, yeah, CJ McCollum, dude, 11 for 16 from deep. Jeez. Yeah, he dropped 42 points in 35 minutes.
Yeah, he definitely lit them up on the other side of things. They're just a tournament team across the board. They're priced pretty like towards their ceiling for even no Brandon Ingram. Valanciunas' minutes with no Larry Nance are sometimes a bit higher. So if you want to take some chances with Valanciunas, we know he has huge upside if he somehow finds a way to play mid-30s minutes and in a spot against Embiid. I believe Embiid's a game-time decision now. So keep an eye on that situation. Trey Murphy, where you get the 3-point bonus. That's really where I draw the line. I don't have any interest getting above the field on guys like Nashi, Jose Alvarado, Hernan Gomez. That's really about it. It's not going to be that difficult to get above the field on this New Orleans team. It's just that they're not grading as good point per dollar value plays right now, but make for great tournament options, in my opinion.
This is a good game, but I'm not sure it's a great DFS game because Philly's not really popping either. You know, none of our tools are particularly high on them. You look at the boom bust tool, ownership, of course, projecting what their ownership is going to look like. Rimpak mentioned it too. We're doing 5 free days. We just extended that, which is insane. 5 free days of all of our NBA content. And it's not like football where you have a bunch of days without games. You're talking basketball every single day for 5 days. If you really wanted to test these tools out, get an opportunity to use them at no risk whatsoever, outside of taking a second to sign up by clicking that link in the description or the one that Tyler just threw in the chat, you're getting the ownership projections, the top stack tool, the boom bust tool, the player projections, the NBA lineup generator, which is awesome, right? Like generate lineups. You can export them to CSV. You can late swap. You can swap players in and out. You can make tweaks. You can make them for tournament lineups, for you can make balance lineups, cash lineups, whatever you want. And the lineup builder as well. For those of you single entry or 3-max players, seriously, just know the options are unlimited with the tools that we're offering. And we're doing the free 5 days because we want you guys to check them out and hopefully stick around afterwards and win some money. So links down there in the description and in chat. You want to get in on this action, you could do it right now and still have plenty of time to use these tools to build lineups for tonight. You got it through the next 5 days as well, all of those slates. Philly, though, only one pulling any ownership for Philly right now is James Harden at 4%. Everyone else, there's one player in this entire game, Rinpack, north of 1% on either side.
Yeah, and it's the way I look with Philly when Maxey was out, Harden and Embiid in type of move on situation, and it kind of feels like the same thing here. Maxey being back does take away some usage for them, but I still think they can get to an upside. I know they're priced up now. Harden's up north of 10K at 10-1. Embiid certainly has a huge upside, even at 11-3 and 11-4. That's really about it. Tough team to get above the field on. If you can definitely make the case, but Tobias Harris for me kind of falls under the picture. That's really about it. I'll try to get above the field on Harden and Embiid. It won't be that difficult, but I like getting above the field on those two type of players whenever I can. But that's really about it. Maxey being back certainly does hurt.
It does. Even if he's playing limited minutes, it still hurts now that this team is finally healthy. Let's talk about the Spurs and Brooklyn then, because I definitely want to be able to spend time on a few of these games, specifically that Golden State Warriors one that we'll get to in a little bit with a lot of their depth being out today. You're not just talking about Wiggins. You're talking about a lot of that bench depth being sidelined. But the Spurs first, going up against Brooklyn, biggest spread of the day. They're 12-point dogs. They have the worst defense in basketball, 237-point total in this one. And Lonnie Walker is out as well. I'm sorry, Lonnie Walker out for Dude, sometimes I still do that for the Lakers. Sometimes I still do that and running back to the Spurs team here. But the Bates Diop is out, which doesn't really mean much at all. Are the Spurs a team that you're looking to get to, starting with Jakob Poeltl?
No, I don't think I can go to Jakob Poeltl. Those minutes, he is popular. Those minutes have been not enough. I do think this seems like a situation where they're limiting him till they trade him type of situation with the Jakob Poeltl. I don't know why, but 5,800, 7,100. He's getting a lot of ownership over there on DraftKings. I'd look elsewhere. I think it's a loaded potential center slate to spend up at. I think we can look elsewhere outside of Poeltl. If I was going to roster a Spur tonight, it would be Devin Vassell at 6,800, 6,900 on DraftKings and FanDuel respectively. Keldon Johnson seems priced appropriately. I'm just willing to take the savings with a guy like Vassell over Keldon. But that's really about it. It's a tough Spurs team to go to. Jeremy Sohan has been playing much better of late. You can certainly play him. I have no issues getting somewhat above the field on a guy like Sohan on DraftKings only. 6K on FanDuel seems priced where kind of too high in my opinion on this type of slate.
Hey, let me back up for 1 second. I wanted to touch on something before I forget. If Joel Embiid sits, that could be, a game changer here.
Yeah.
So if Joel Embiid sits, I know that Tyrese Maxey is back, but like I said, Doc said he's going to be playing off the bench for the near future. He returned last week after a long absence and only played 18 minutes or 19 minutes. I think you could see him get to like 22 or so here. I don't imagine I'm going to rush him back a ton. But if Joel Embiid sits, what does that do for guys like Harden? And how do we attack the center position in his absence?
Yeah, no, that's going to be a huge, it would change the slate completely. And Harden would look outstanding, even at 10-1 and 10-3. Certainly almost a priority spend up play. And then if Maxey being currently limited, I still would stay away. I don't think I could go to him at that price tag. Just hearing those minutes will be limited. And then I'm going to have to play roulette with Montrezl Harrell and Paul Reed, just because there are games where Paul Reed gets hot and Doc rides him out. And so I'll be having to play roulette with them. Even if Harrell starts, I'll still play Paul Reed. I just think he has that upside in 20 minutes. And sometimes Paul Reed has shown the ability to close a game out when Embiid is out. So it's going to be going like mixing and matching Reed and Harrell. I really don't think I'd play both. That'd be difficult for me to play both of them in the same line.
How much Harden would you be getting to?
A lot, like a significant amount. Like Harden with no Embiid, I do think is like an 11-5 player, like at the minimum. So we're going to get him at a nice discount. So it's worth spending up for James Harden for sure.
All right, let me get back to Brooke. I wanted to, because that's, if there's some people only watching this show and not live before locks.
It's going to sound ridiculous, but I know you were watching the game. Did Jose Alvarado, was he a pain in the ass for James Harden all game long?
I mean, I was watching the game at the bar.
Okay. So, I was just curious.
I don't know. I know Harden had an underwhelming performance in that game. Alvarado played 20 minutes there.
Yeah, no, I just saw a highlight for Alvarado just bothering him for like a good minute. That's why I was curious.
It's possible. It wouldn't matter though if Embiid is out, right?
Yeah.
All right, Brooklyn. We talked about the Spurs. Let's get to the Brooklyn Nets here. Man, it feels like when this team's healthy, we just play very little of them on slates where everybody is priced appropriately.
Yeah, no, this team is pretty much priced appropriately right now for a Spurs matchup where they might be able to do the damage in 3 quarters potentially. They've been playing awesome basketball of late. You can certainly play KD. He can put up 40 real life points in 3 quarters against the Spurs team. There's no denying that. Kyrie Irving can certainly do that on his own as well. So they're just make for solid tournament options. If you want to play TJ Warren, you can. 4,300. He might, if this game were to potentially blow out, he might get some of that first part of the blowout run. But this team across the board it's not that appealing. It's a good matchup. So if you want to make a case to get above the field on a guy like Ben Simmons at 5,900, he just doesn't shoot the ball enough. He doesn't need to when you're playing alongside KD and Kyrie. So it's 5,900. You're hoping for some sort of double-double, some steals and blocks for him to pay that off. But a team that's really difficult to get too far above the field, and I think they're priced appropriately. The ownership's coming in appropriately as well.
Okay. Man, he's been playing pretty fantastic defense out there in Brooklyn, though.
Yeah. Do you miss him?
No, not at all. No, because he wasn't going to play anyway. So it's either like, all right, we sit on it and just, nothing happens. Or that's why I never had an issue with the Harden trade, because even if Harden didn't work out, Ben Simmons would have just been a sunk cost anyway. So why not take a shot?
No, I definitely think it's one of the more even trades that I think worked out for both teams for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Let's talk about Tyler. Can you hit that sidebar down to Denver, Minnesota here? Thanks. Denver, Minnesota. You got the Nuggets. There's a second of a back-to-back, isn't it?
Yeah, they played last night.
Yeah. Second of a back-to-back for the Nuggets. And assuming that Jamal Murray just sat out for the front end of a back-to-back as he's done all year, he should be good to go. Pretty clean bill of health for the Denver Nuggets today. I saw some people asking questions in chat as well, essentially saying, hey, with Rudy Gobert in there for Minnesota, are we still as high on Nikola Jokic? I think it's a good discussion to have because you're never going to get him at a discounted price point. He's 11-7. It is also a Luka Doncic night against the Houston Rockets, and he's coming off the best fantasy performance 3 games ago that we've ever seen since DraftKings or any of these DFS sites were around. This is the best game.
Yeah, no, that was the best performance like in the modern NBA DFS era. It was really impressive just to watch. But I think Harden's had some massive games. I think Anthony Davis had some big games in New Orleans, and Jokic maybe might have been up there as well. But it was amazing to see. But going back to Jokic and the Gobert
Davis
spot,
is the first 100.1 that I remember.
Yeah, no, I think he was a 13K player, right, in New Orleans.
Yeah. When he was blocking like 6 shots a night. Yeah, that was crazy. But yeah, let's talk about Jokic. 10% ownership seems pretty sensible here, just given the slate we're talking about.
Yeah, Jokic, I know he's on a back end of the back-to-back, but I know people brought up Rudy Gobert. He's done his fair share of damage against Gobert in the past. Jokic is matchup proof, right? It doesn't matter. He gets involved passing, rebounding in very, very like high fashion. Like it doesn't matter. Jokic is getting the job done in terms of fantasy wise and for his team. So 11-6 and 11-7 and 11-6 on DraftKings and FanDuel. I think he's fine to go to. If you want to get above the field, I think there's enough value to get him in there as well. So no issues there. I know Jamal Murray didn't play last night, so you can certainly play Jamal Murray. 7-2 on DraftKings looks like a much better spot to play him than on FanDuel. Murray's minutes have been up coming back from ACL injury. There's some games he's playing in the high 30s. And $28 on Yahoo. I really like going to Murray. So that's really about it for this Denver team, though. With all of these guys healthy now, can't really get above the field on a guy like Aaron Gordon. Michael Porter Jr., a guy who can get hot from the outside where you get the 3-point bonus. He's 6K on both sides. You're really hoping for a high-efficient, high-scoring game from Porter Jr. to pay off that type of price tag on a 10-game slate.
Yeah. And Steven, Harden has 200 DraftKings point games, actually. One in 2016, one in 18. He has 690 plus DraftKings point games. Damn, dude. People just coming into DFS now forget how dominant of a DFS play James Harden was back in the Houston days.
Oh yeah, and there was the stretches when Chris Paul would be out and he just put up 60-point triple doubles.
It'd be out. Yeah, the 100-point game was 53, 16, 17.
Wow.
He had a 60, 10, and 11, a 51, 13, 13. Yeah, just preposterous numbers across the board that we likely aren't going to see again. Who knows? Maybe tonight if Joel Embiid's out, but I would say that's unlikely.
Right. Yeah, that is.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that is unlikely even if Embiid is out.
Let's talk about Minnesota then. And hey, hit that thumbs up. We're halfway there to 500. I know out of the 2,100 people watching, there are 249 people kind enough to hit that thumbs up. Rinpack, hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet.
Oh, I already did.
Okay. So, all right. Me too. First thing, come in. I lead by example here. I try not to be a hypocrite. Tyler, make sure you do the same damn thing. And we need everything we can get to get us north of 500. All right. Minnesota, Rudy Gobert. We have Reed, Russell, and Gobert all within 6 to 7%. But right now we got that news just at the top of the show. This is probably more interesting than anything else. given just kind of the underwhelming nature of this team tonight. D'Angelo Russell showed up late on the injury report as questionable. Now, this isn't a sure sign that he's not going to play, but you know as well as I do that when guys go through shoot around and they're questionable, pretty good chance they play. When players pop up as questionable midway through the day or even close to late in the afternoon, a lot of times that can lead to them not playing.
Yeah, no, this is something to keep an eye on. If D'Lo sits, there's certainly going to be some usage opening up, and especially minutes. And my eyes will gravitate a guy like to Jalen Noel. If Noel is going to start, I'll like him. I'll still like him if he doesn't start for some reason there. With him out, Slow-Mo can certainly pick up some ball handling duty. He can definitely bring up the ball. And Anthony Edwards still looks like a play that you can get above the field on. It won't take much. 9.5 and 9.2. He'll make sure to take up some of the usage that D'Lo has left behind. So this Minnesota team, the D'Lo news will be really important to keep an eye on.
Precious Achiuwa will play. Fred VanVleet will play as well. They're both in.
Well, okay, if they're both in, you can certainly play VanVleet at that 7.6 price tag on DraftKings and Siakam. But the guys like OG and Scotty Barnes and Gary Trent Jr. become a lot less appealing. But you can certainly get above one or two of those guys in tournaments. I wouldn't fault you just because of how concentrated the minutes and usage are for a Toronto team in an Indiana spot.
All right. Anything else for this game, or should we keep it moving?
No, I think Live Before Lock will probably have the news here, and so we should just keep going.
Let's do it. Yeah, we'll go game by game as we've been doing, hit on the important stuff. Talk about Luka Doncic. Before we do, though, Rimpak, have you heard about the insane overlay at No House Advantage?
I have.
So have I. Tyler could tell me how much the overlay there is right now. My guess is it's an absurd amount, as it always is. You go ahead, pull it up. Last time we did this show was at like 30% an hour before lock. They purposely are creating a ton of overlay because they want people to check the site out. There's no better way to do that. It's brilliant because if you come over there and you're just running heavy overlay every single night, you're going to stick around. Why would you not? You're not getting that on DraftKings and FanDuel or any of these places. And is that what it's at right now? 232 out of 1,200. 232 out of 1,200 is what it's filled. And we have 1 hour and 17 minutes until lock. It's 19% filled right now. And it's paying 210 places out of 1,200. So it's like slightly more people are in it right now than it pays. That's what I'm talking about here. And there's no learning curve. All you're doing is taking props and you're building a lineup with the over or the under. There's no juice on either side, just the over or the under. Static props as well. They don't change throughout the day. So for tonight or for Monday Night Football, awesome Monday Night Football game. They got a nice contest showdown style for that. Check it out. Play against the field. Win some money. Use the link in the description or in chat to get a first match deposit bonus of up to $100. They just raised it from $50. And to ice the cake, over at Stokastic, all of our tools for No House Advantage are free, entirely free. Alex Baker, Awesemo himself, built those tools, the optimal lineup tool, the player prop projections, everything that you can use as a way to win some money, take advantage of that massive overlay. And while you're there, check out the format they have where you can play against the house. You hit all your picks, you 21 extra entry. Definitely a spot to be right now, given the overlay, given the deposit bonus, given the free tools. Easy money is something that you should be taking advantage of. No House Advantage, sponsor of the Deeper Dive. Easiest way to put it. All right, let's keep it going here. Talk about Luka Doncic and his Mavs going up against the Houston Rockets, 7-point favorites on the road. Only real injury news here outside of guys that we knew would be out and have been out is Şengün is questionable. We can get there when we talk about Houston, but let's start with the most obvious play here, Rimpak. It is Luka Doncic, 12-4. How easy is it to get him in the lineups today with the current value that we have? Not with what we might have, but what we currently have.
Currently that we have, it's not that easy to get him into. There are some solid, cheaper, expensive point guards as well, where you're really hoping for Luka to put up another massive performance against Houston. He certainly can. It's not that easy. So there is merit to like getting above the field on. I definitely think you'll be very different with the value that we currently have. What we might have, I do think will make it fairly easy to get to him if everything breaks the way it could to favor us to get Luka in our lineups. Look, it's against the Houston team. He should light them up. It's Luka Doncic. He's been awesome. 12-4 on both sides. You can certainly start with him. I wouldn't argue with it at all. He's been that great of late. But the ownership, I mean, he's coming in around 10% on both sides. It looks like a solid play. It's Luka Doncic. I don't need to say anything more. I definitely think it's worth getting over the field on potentially Christian Wood. Those minutes have been much higher of late than they were early in the season. Since he's been starting, it's been kind of a trend here. So I like paying up for Christian Wood, even at 8K and 8,300. He might be also things put together my favorite map to go to tonight. Dinwiddie and Hardaway are certainly fine guys to get above the field on. They're getting ownership on FanDuel. On DraftKings, you can certainly get a little bit above the field on. It's a Houston team where this Dallas team should feast.
Man, 37% of Christian Wood's field goal attempts have been from 3-point range this year. He's a unique player.
Yeah, no, I mean, they didn't give up much to get him. They gave up like Boban and Trey Burke to get him. And like,
it wasn't a lot.
No. And Christian Wood obviously ran its course there in Houston where he just wasn't playing well. So that just led him to get him on cheap. And he's had some locker room issues in the past. But he's been playing really well for this Dallas team. They're still, I think, one more piece away, like another good wing player away from really taking that conference finals to finals leap, I think.
Yeah, your background looks pretty sweet with that sun setting back there.
Yeah, no, the sunset's way too early here. That's one
here too. It's been dark here for a while already. Yeah, at least we're not in Alaska. How about the Houston side of the ball? Like I said, we'll still wait on Şengün. I really don't know if his absence even makes a difference because you're just going to see split minutes at the 5 anyway in a not so great matchup, right? Like we could talk about it from just a usage perspective, but as far as additional minutes getting distributed to heavily skewing to one player, I don't know if that would be the case even if he's out, right? Wouldn't it just be Garuba and Fernando getting like some type of split?
Yeah, and that's like a very tough split to go to one of those two guys, even if Şengün is out.
Against Dallas, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be really difficult. And when it comes to Houston, I look at Porter Jr. and Jalen Green right off the bat just because of their usage and their potential shot volume. One of them can easily shoot 20-plus times a game. I like going to Jalen Green where you get the 3-point bonus at DraftKings at 6,800. 6,900 on FanDuel is fine to go to. Porter Jr., priced appropriately. Don't mind getting above the field on him. Not a priority whatsoever. Şengün being out, additional usage could fall on their shoulders as well. So that's another eye to keep an eye on. Might be a little sneaky, might get overlooked by the field there. Jabari Smith Jr. has been playing much better of late, and I've been playing him above the field for the last couple of weeks just because I think his talent should transpire. I think he's had the tough learning curve. He got into a Jalen Green, and he's just was a tough start. But at 5K, the minutes are above 30. We have the data and tools team currently have him north of 30 minutes. I don't mind getting above the field on a guy like Jabari Smith Jr. yet again tonight. I think he's fine to take some chances on this 10-game slate.
Cheshire Cat. Remember when Drummond didn't suck ass? There was a time though where Drummond, kind of fit well into this league, and that time is long gone. There were a lot of guys like that,
Mm-hmm. No, there are so many guys who are like that. It's hard for centers to be relevant if your names are not Embiid and who else? Jokic.
Yeah.
It is really hard to be relevant for a long period of time if you're a center. So you got to give credit for the centers who adapt their game and really change it up because Andre Drummond couldn't, and that's why he's going to be out of the league in maybe next year.
Yeah, you either have to be like a straight unicorn such as Jokic, dominant offensively and defensively like Embiid, or you just need to be so good defensively and such a good rebounder that it doesn't matter. But
yeah, and sometimes there is I think us playing DFS, we get caught up in the moment like, oh, he's a good fantasy player. Doesn't mean he's a good NBA basketball player.
Not at all.
So there are two big differences there, and we get caught up in that over and over again.
That's the thing. Drummond was never a great real life basketball player as far as contributing to wins. DFS purposes, I guarantee you Drummond is still sick if you ran him out there for 30 minutes a game. All right. How much would Drummond, here's a thought experiment because we got 3 games to go. We're doing fine. If Drummond was playing 33 minutes a game, right? since the start of the season. What is his price point right now? If he's playing 33 minutes per game for the Pistons.
For the Pistons, I would at least have to put him around 7.5 or 8K at this age. Yeah, I think he would be easily putting up 15 numbers on a nightly basis, just because that's how like efficient Drummond is. He just racks up so many rebounds when he's given those minutes, but he was not good defensively. He was reliability on defense. That's kind of a reason why he can't shoot the three. So they would took him isolation all the time. So.
And it's crazy how some players have adapted. Go back and look at Brook Lopez and Nikola Vucevic. They never attempted threes before, ever. And now it's the repertoire. Like Brook Lopez doesn't attempt 2-pointers. Doesn't attempt twos.
Yeah, no, I mean, like Blake Griffin, he was just a dunker, and then he just completely became a 5-2 player before he got hurt. That was another guy for sure.
Yeah, you have to evolve. Talking about certain centers, though, with Atlanta, you've got Clint Capella sidelined again. Okongwu only getting 8%. It's kind of an interesting spot here because he's not wildly overpriced. He's played some really big minutes recently. Again, I know that Collins was in foul trouble. That certainly could have affected it last game a little bit, but some really big minutes for Okongwu since Clint Capella has been on the sidelines.
Yeah, no, it's been a ton of minutes for Okongwu, and there was a stretch where he didn't start and Collins was started a game, which threw things off here, but Okongwu's getting a lot of minutes. I do think those minutes are on the higher side of things. Right now, our team only has him projected for just about 29 minutes. He's fine to get to. I have no issues if you want to get above the field on Okongwu. But there are some other great centers on this slate that we can definitely spend up for. So it's a tough sell on Okongwu. It's just like if he's your last man in, sure, but not a priority whatsoever.
Is anyone a priority for the Atlanta Hawks today with Capella out? And I believe Hunter is still questionable.
Yeah, keep an eye on that Hunter news. You might get some additional wing minutes to a guy like AJ Griffin, and that might be a play to go to at $4,200. But I think I like DeJounte Murray at 8.5 and 8.7. Certainly at $35 on Yahoo makes for a solid option to go to. And Trae Young at 9.9 and 10K. I know we touched on other players around this price range. I don't like him as much as LaMelo Ball, but it's Trae Young where you get the 3-point bonus at sub 10K. You can get to him, not a priority. It's not going to take much to get above the field in a guy like Trae against this shorthanded Golden State team.
Let's talk about the Warriors. You currently have 6 players pulling 17+% ownership right now. Wow, Mobley's out.
Okay, that changes things as well.
That is uncommon to see a guy go through shoot around and not play. Yeah,
no, that's definitely definitely. Hopefully, that's not the trend in 2023 in terms of NBA DFS, because that'll be a problem to deal with for us and the players and everyone put together. With Mobley being out,
hold on. We know Mobley was out last game, dude. We understand that the point was it's not about Mobley being out. It's the fact that you go through shoot around. Usually you play. That's it, pal. All right. Anyway, go ahead, Rimpak.
Kevin Love starting. Kevin Love is a type of value that has opened up that makes him for an awesome value play, in my opinion. Kevin Love should be able to play mid to high 20s minutes at the minimum. Wouldn't shock me if he gets above 30 potentially, but Kevin Love should be able to pay off that price tag in those minutes against Chicago. So back to Golden State.
Real quick though, Kevin Love still at this age, 1.12 fantasy points per minute.
Yeah, I think Kevin Love could start on a lot of NBA teams. I think he was willing to take a 6-man role really quick for being like at one point he was a star caliber player and he just was willing to take the backseat and kind of like maybe helped out in terms of longevity of his career, but he can certainly pay off that price tag tonight.
Okay. Alquantra Loco. Matter of fact, DraftKings, he was asking about late swap. DraftKings, forget what year it was. They removed the late swap and then brought it back. So
yeah, no, there was also a year where FanDuel would drop your lowest score. So everyone would just play $3,500 players that wouldn't even be in the rotation. So that was a whole nother game.
Damn. Yeah, that's right. I don't know. As far back as I can remember, DraftKings had late swap until they decided to remove it. Like, what was that, 5 years ago now, probably?
Yeah. The late swap is a very crucial part to the game. It's a whole nother science, I think, to NBA DFS, in my opinion, compared to any other sport.
All right, let's talk about the Warriors though. They're really missing a lot today. It may not seem like all these integral players because obviously Curry's been out and Wiggins is out, but Kuminga, Wiseman, JaMychal Green, all guys that could have provided depth in the event that one or the other two are out. They're all sidelined today, either been out or just now out now. That changes the game up a lot for Golden State tonight.
It does. And like they've been missing obviously Curry, Wiggins, JaMychal Green for some time. James Wiseman has been in and out of the rotation, but it's kind of shocking to me see just because Kuminga is now like the most recent guy to be ruled out. All those minutes get spread around to these tertiary, secondary players where they're getting quite a bit of ownership. Where I'm kind of scratching my head. I know there'll be potential players to get to like to help us spend up for studs, but I'm a little skeptical. A guy like Anthony Lamb getting a lot of ownership. He can certainly shoot the three well, but everything else, I'm a little skeptical. If you can certainly get around the field to a guy like Lamb, and the field is quite a bit on FanDuel, I don't know if I want to get above the field on a guy like Anthony Lamb.
Well, let me ask you this then, because last game, Kuminga was on the floor for every minute that either Green or Looney wasn't, right? So here's the issue that I run into. Does Kerr really intend on playing Looney, massive, huge minutes now because Kuminga's out? Like, what are the alternatives? This has been a coach that has played real conservative all season long, resting a lot of these guys when given the opportunity, obviously before the injuries to two of their starters. I mean, how much of a minutes boost do you expect to see from Draymond Green and Kevon Looney today with Kuminga joining JaMychal Green and now James Wiseman on the sidelines?
Yeah, they don't have a true backup center. And I think expect Draymond Green to play a lot of minutes at the five. He just has to. Like a lot of minutes more than he usually has this season, and especially with this rotation with all these guys out. No one else is. I don't expect Lamb to play any minutes at the center. Maybe he can get some just because of how shorthanded they are in the front court. But that's really about it. I really think it's well worth getting up with the field than a guy like Draymond Green, and then maybe Kevon Looney potentially, just because those minutes could be 30 minutes tonight, and Looney can pay that off in this Atlanta spot. But I think it's also, we shouldn't look over the fact Klay Thompson's 7,100 and 7,600. He can certainly put up a massive scoring outcome, and Jordan Poole as well. I expect Poole, Thompson, DiVincenzo, Green, and Looney to play a lot of minutes. So we can expect, I think there's a chance that all of them can play at least low 30s minutes. Some of them can play high 30s minutes, barring the way things go. Like, I don't know how much Kerr is going to trust the two-way players in Lamb and Jerome. Patrick Baldwin is just a rookie, and he's just seems awfully raw. There is some talent. He does have like that NBA wing length and wingspan, but I don't know how much Kerr trusts those guys in a spot. They need to win games. Like, look, this team is like falling out of like play-in game contention.
That's insane. I still think they'll be okay. Ultimately, there's a long way to go. I don't think it's quite time to hit the panic button yet. But yeah, I agree. It's not what we would have anticipated at all. We have Baldwin projected for what? 12 fantasy points.
Yeah, I can't. I don't even want to even consider him an option.
Minutes. Yeah, I'm with you. I think you see Green have to just play more at the 5. I'm just not convinced that Looney's coming out and playing 32 minutes. We'll see. Maybe he does.
Yeah, I have like a bias against Kevon Looney for all those years that built up because he would just like get the start with when Kevin Durant was there, and he would just be an awful fantasy guy. But then he would just balled out in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, he did.
And it burned me. So I'm a little salty with Kevon Looney, but this seems like a spot where those minutes could be potentially 30.
All right, MJazz 22. You guys have any good prop picks for us new Ohio bettors? Yeah, dude, we got an entire channel over there, Odd Shopper channel. Check it out. And we got all the links in the descriptions of those NBA videos. If you're in Ohio and you have $30, you want to get $30 combined on 4 books, not each, you're getting $800 in bonus bets. Dude, Rinpack, they are throwing money at people in Ohio after they went live yesterday. You know this. You're
no. And sometimes, and people forget, if you don't live in Ohio, you can take advantage of the books if you travel to other states, which is like if I were to drive to Ohio, I can also take advantage of this bonus bets and come back type of situation, place my bets there and still get access to the same books.
I don't think we're supposed to say that, but yes, you can. You're good. If you want 2 free months though, Stokastic plus Platinum, all of our tools, everything, like I told you about that 5-day trial, you want everything for 2 months. And not only that, everything for 2 months, not just for basketball, but every sport. And if you want, you can get the Fantasy Cruncher add-on for both of those months as well. $240 value, every tool, every single sport, including the lineup generator and all of our data. Link to MGM is in the description. All you need is 2 minutes and $10. I say that with all sincerity. No bullshit. You take $10, you click the link, you put a straight bet on anything you want. Okay. And if you win or lose, you're getting 2 free months. And the coolest part is if you lose, if your first bet from 10 to 1,000, however much you want it to be, doesn't matter. If it loses, you get all of that back in free bets. It just can't be like, I can't be like a minus 1,000 bet, bet something straight, like close to even, minus 110. I think it could be minus 200, but check the conditions. Point being, you're getting 2 free months of Stokastic plus Platinum for $10 and 2 minutes. Even if you're not doing it right now because you're building lineups, bookmark that link and come back to it after lock. Check out all of our tools, the Discord, everything, and we'd love to have you over there. All right, so we got through Golden State. That was the big one here. We got 2 to go. Sorry, live before lock. We got quick scheduling mess up, but we'll get through this. Detroit 9-point dogs against Portland, 232.5 total. Killian Hayes still suspended. What do you want to do with the Pistons tonight?
Yeah, with no Hayes, we've seen Alec Burks have a couple good games at that price tag at 4,700 and 5,700. I like getting above the field on a guy like Bogdanovich and Ivy. I have no issues on both sides to sprinkle getting above the field on both of those players. I do think Ivy is playing better of late. Hopefully those minutes go up by that reasoning. I'm hoping for more consistently low to mid 30s minutes as the season moves along. We'll see if Dwayne Casey lets him do that. The front court got another body back in Bagley, so it kind of just like messed up this whole rotation, and like everyone else seems like really difficult to go there. I know Bay comes in at 4,300. He did get the start last. Did he get the start? He got the start on Friday night, but I don't know if he got it on against Minnesota. But I mean, you can play him where you get the 3-point bonus. That's really about it. I don't necessarily want to get above the field on a guy like him, but he's out of play at 5,800 on FanDuel. Duran's another guy you're really hoping for him to potentially just stay on the court a bit more and doesn't lose too many minutes to Stewart and Bagley, but he's okay to get to, nothing too exciting.
What about the Portland side?
Yeah, the Portland side is important to keep an eye on. They're getting their free agent signing Gary Payton II back tonight, which is a pretty big news in terms of for their team perspective. But in terms of DFS, I don't know who's going to take minutes away from. My guess would be Josh Hart and some Anthony Simons. Shaden Sharp is kind of already almost out of the rotation. He might lose all his minutes now. So keep an eye on that and see how that progresses with the return of Gary Payton II here. Against this Detroit team.
Keep an eye on Nurkic too. If Nurkic sits, that's a big deal. If
Nurkic is out, Eubanks certainly becomes a play against this Detroit team, 3,500 and 4,600. Watford as well at $3,200. So this is like the type of value that we're talking about, potential value that's going to open up that could change the slate. This team right here. Lillard makes for a solid spend up here at 98 and 9,400 and against a Detroit team. No one should be able to slow them down. Anthony Simons, a sneaky tournament option. I like getting above the field on him. I like his shot volume. I like that he shoots from 3 a lot, 6,700 and 6,200. DraftKings FanDuel. This Portland team makes for a solid tournament team across the board.
Beautiful. We'll wrap it up with this. Coming up next, live before lock. They're taking you all the way up to lock today. And then you got NFL Showdown live before lock with Matt Savoca and Neil Orfield, the Showdown Shaman. Don't miss that for the final Monday night game of the year. But Greg Ehrenberg and Eric coming up next. If you just want to skip Miami, go for it. It's up to you. But with the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard, questionable now. That's worth paying attention to. You can hit both sides of this one, so we get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy Butler expected back here. If you want to play one of those 3 studs, they're expensive, and it's a Clippers spot where I'm looking elsewhere. I know it's difficult. They all have tournament upside. If you want to play Tyler Hero at 7,900, sure. But no one on this Miami Heat team sticks out to me. Now, if Kawhi Leonard is out, he was downgraded to questionable earlier in the afternoon today. Paul George certainly becomes a spend-up option at 86 and 9K. He should definitely be getting a lot of the usage. Feel free to get above the field on a guy like Norm Powell, Marcus Morris Jr., expect a lot of the wing minutes to go there as well. I have no issues taking some chances on those wing players if Kawhi is out. Now, if Kawhi plays, kind of ruins the situation here. They become like Kawhi and Paul George making for solid tournament options. That's about it. Really keep an eye on that Kawhi being out because Paul George becomes a solid option if Kawhi is out.
Rinpack, great stuff as always, brother.
Fun show.
Follow him at Rinpack. Real simple. RYNPAK. That's it. Follow me at Lafayette_D. Shout out to Tyler Zander for producing this one. Greg and Eric coming up next on Live Before Lock. Good luck tonight, guys. Peace.
What's up, everybody? No? Is that a fake countdown? What is this, Tyler? No, did the show start?
Yeah, the show's starting, but I literally think we just lost Eric as I counted you in. Oh, no, he's back.
What?
Oh, Eric's here.
I'm here.
Oh,
what are you talking about?
Frozen on my screen. I apologize, chat.
I was just sitting here.
Did we start the show, by the way? Yeah, are we on the show? All right.
I just didn't move. I was just sitting here.
What a bang up job by Tyler, the producer there. All right, guys. So apparently the show has started. As you come in, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Eric is here. That is news to one of the three of us that are here behind the Zoom screen.
What?
And shout out, by the way, to No House Advantage, the sponsor of today's show. Eric, how are you doing? How was your New Year?
I'm doing good. Yeah, New Year was nice. Stuff happens, and mornings figuring out schedule stuff, but otherwise had a lovely time. Was able to spend some time with my family in Arizona. Worked all day yesterday, but for the most part was able to hang out with them Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We drove back across the state early this morning and ready to rock. Got only a 3-gamer tomorrow. So pretty easy day in front of me. Play some NFL Showdown as well. Looking forward to tonight.
Yeah, and as per usual, we had news roll in just before the show started. So the most significant of that news is going to be confirmation from the Cleveland Cavaliers. Evan Mobley is out. Darius Garland was doubtful. He has now officially been ruled out. So now for the Cleveland Cavaliers, this is the preeminent value of the early games. And then later on, we've got the Golden State Warriors still within their 9-man rotation. But now that we have confirmation that Garland is out and that Evan Mobley is out, how is this impacting the Cleveland Cavaliers?
Kevin Love starting. Like, we play an infinity amount of Kevin Love. Like, I will have 100% Kevin Love. I don't know how to get away from playing 100% Kevin Love. I mean, is there a reason that you would not play 100% Kevin Love other than hoping he just gets hurt or plays 16 minutes for no reason tonight?
No, I mean, he started last game and we saw the minutes that he got as a starter. It's the most he's played all year by pretty considerable margin. We very rarely get 30 plus minutes out of Kevin Love. That's what we got last game. I expect it's going to be the same. So Kevin Love and Karis LeVert, they're both going to be uber popular, and it is both totally warranted on each of them. I'll check to see if we have ownership updates from the news, and a lot of it rolled in. This was the most significant of the recent news that broke, but we still do have some other pieces as well that we just got word on. So Naz Reid is now questionable. Royce O'Neal is questionable. Those are two things also that could have lesser impact on the slate. But starting with the Cleveland Cavaliers, I think pretty hard to get away from Karis LeVert and Kevin Love. LeVert was projected for 53% ownership, and Kevin Love, we still need an ownership update to see where he comes in. Donovan Mitchell benefits as well. And, you know, it's kind of hard on some of these slates, though, because like it was Saturday slate, for instance. I like Donovan Mitchell. I thought he's a really good points per dollar play. And then just over the course of the night, other high-end options ended up opening up and just ended up becoming better guys than him. Kind of thing that could happen again today. He's worth getting to a lesser extent. But if Joel Embiid gets ruled out, which I expect to happen in the next 15 minutes or so, then I'm going to prefer James Harden. So right now, I like Donovan Mitchell. I have a feeling I'm going to like better guys in the next 15, 20 minutes, though.
Yeah, what happens is that you get another good basketball player, a guy with higher usage in Karis LeVert. And then you get Kevin Love, who's just a good basketball player, good fantasy producer on the floor alongside Donovan Mitchell. So like, we're not really tweaking his projection all that much. Like everybody else goes up the board by a landslide. Like Kevin Love, Karis LeVert at 4,800 and 4,700 are still far cries from where they should be on a slate like this. So it's pretty easy to jam them. 6,600 Jared Allen, I'm still landing on a little bit. But I mean, I just don't see any reason that I wouldn't just jam Kevin Love tonight.
Yeah, no, totally same. Him and LeVert, I feel the same about the two of them. Incredibly difficult to get away from those two players. Is there anything else from Cleveland that you're going to be getting to tonight?
Oh, I think I'm going to take the Cedi Osman shot just because we've seen it at 3,500 a couple times over the last couple seasons where you just run into some more minutes. He's played 30, 24 the last two. I think if anything happens to LeVert or Kevin Love, I think he gets an opportunity to maybe be the other guy. Lamar Stevens is the one starting, but he's just not very good ever. Isaac Okoro, he's defensive and legitimately terrible as well. I think Cedi Osman has an opportunity to maybe get some shots up. And, you know, if he gets out from three, that's sweet. But you can say that about a lot of guys on the slate, but not all of them are 3,500. So I have a couple shares of him. I'm over the 5% number, but it is nothing crazy.
The other player, too, that I think we have to consider, Jared Allen. This is more DraftKings specific because he's $6,600 on DraftKings, but $7,700 on FanDuel. And the $7,700 on FanDuel, I won't say is totally unplayable because he's power forward and center eligibility. But as far as DraftKings go, $6,600 price tag for Jared Allen without Mobley, it's a little bit too cheap. He stands to gain a little bit in terms of playing time because while Kevin Love is definitely going to step into the starting lineup because we've already seen that come out, and he is a very capable front court guy and rebounder, he's not going to play the exact same minutes as Evan Mobley, and Allen's going to pick up some of those extra minutes there. So I like getting to Allen a whole bunch at 6,600 on ZK as well.
Yep, I don't mind that shot at all. I talked about him for a brief second. 6,600, still not high enough. I'm okay getting it, but I would say out of the five guys actually pulling any kind of ownership in Cedi, Karis LeVert, Kevin Love, Donovan Mitchell, and Jared Allen, he's probably the one that I have the least amount of interest in, still getting to him around 10% of the time.
And then as for the other two pieces of news that just came out, we don't have to talk about them if it's nothing that really stands out to you in any significant way. But Royce O'Neal is questionable. Naz Reid is questionable. would either of them being ruled out impact the slate in any kind of major way for you?
I mean, the Naz Reid thing is a little bit weird to me. He's started to play a lot more for the Timberwolves. He's been the better offensive center off the bench. There's no question about that. Maybe it shores up a little bit of Rudy Gobert. He's now to 6,900 guarding Jokic. You got to assume he's going to be out there every minute you could possibly imagine to try to play against him there. I thought about the Luka Garza thing. I've been trying to find ways to get to Luka Garza. He played 18 minutes last time out. He is a good offensive center. He's been destroying the G League there in Iowa.
Garza didn't play 18 minutes last game, did he?
Yeah, he did. Played 18 against Milwaukee.
That wasn't their last game.
Oh, sorry, 2 ago on the 30th.
Yeah, he was so that was
DNP,
Gobert was
CD, multiple times.
Yeah, Gobert was in that game. So last game we saw Garza was a DNP coach's decision. Naz Reid played 24 minutes. I think the minutes alongside Rudy Gobert for Naz Reid are about to go away because what happened last game was Naz Reid played 24 minutes, but Gobert got into early foul trouble in that game. Picked up his second foul 4 minutes into the game. With Kyle Anderson back and starting, I think a lot of those minutes that Naz Reid was playing alongside Rudy Gobert just go to Kyle Anderson now, and Naz Reid goes back to being the backup center. So I was looking at some of the ownership this morning where Naz Reid was projected for like 17% ownership on the first run. And I was like, boy, I really hope people are going to keep playing Naz Reid because I thought he was going to play like 18 minutes tonight. But now, obviously, it doesn't matter as much because if he's questionable, then he just kind of falls out of the picture entirely. And if Rudy Gobert is able to avoid foul trouble, then I think that could benefit him a little bit. But with that said, I would prefer Jared Allen if I'm looking for a center at a similar price point.
Yeah, it was the game on the 30th that I was referring to because I actually watched that one where you had Naz Reid pick up 2 quick ones. Then Nathan Knight came in for 5 minutes and he picked up 2 fast fouls. He didn't come back in the game the rest of the way because Luka Garza closed out that second quarter and played pretty darn well just offensively. Again, he's the guy who could actually offensively do something, but there's no way that I'm going to take that shot on this kind of a slate. Really doesn't do anything for me. It's the guards that you're really paying attention to there now. With D'Angelo Russell questionable, I got to assume that he's not going to be playing. But Jalen Noel just doesn't seem to be getting these starts. And if that's going to continue, because he hasn't started a game all season, I think Austin Rivers is just such an unappealing guy. He is 3,400. So in the same way that I took shots on Chetty, maybe I take some shots going his direction, but far more interested in Anthony Edwards, Kyle Anderson, Rudy Gobert. Those would be the 3 that I'd really focus on.
Yeah, and there are some more players that are questionable that are really key pieces. The Joel Embiid news, a big one. Yep. I assume we're going to get that before too long because that game starts in 42 minutes and Embiid is questionable. Then we've got Kawhi Leonard questionable. D'Angelo Russell, you just mentioned he's questionable. And Yusuf Nurkic also questionable. Those are the biggest names on the injury report. But let's talk about Joel Embiid a little bit just so we're prepared for, who knows? It might not be until 10 minutes before the slate locks that Joel Embiid is to get ruled out or ruled in. I personally think he's more likely to not play than he is to play. But what is your read on the situation?
Yeah, I'm with you. Where now I'm under the impression you see these late downgrades and then it just makes your brain go there. We're going to get it. We're going to get that news. It's the first game of the slate here. And we've seen where they've started Paul Reed. We've seen where they started Montrezl Harrell for those 4 games in a row as well. So, I don't know. Paul Reed's not going to start, but he's the guy I'm still going to have a lot of interest in coming off the bench. That same 4-game stretch where Harrell started, we took that shot where we talked about Paul Reed. He ended up playing 31 minutes off the bench and just outperformed. Then that Charlotte game, we kind of played both of them because Harrell started again. And it just ends up being something where I think Paul Reed at a flat 3K will become just such a good tournament play. I don't assume he'll start, and that'll look great. I think Montrezl Harrell, you can still take the shots on if you want to at 4,500. He did play 28 minutes in one of those 4 games where he started. Otherwise, it's been pretty minimal. Probably won't have a ton of interest considering he's up to 4,500. But the guys that I really want to pay attention to, James Harden, 10-1, way too cheap if you're going to have Joel Embiid off the floor. Give me all of that. You got Tyrese Maxey has been playing very limited minutes, 19 minutes that first game back. I can't imagine he's going to see any kind of run off the bench that's going to exceed 22 minutes in this spot. So I feel pretty good about James Harden being the alpha. Then Tobias Harris, 6,700, kind of becomes the forgotten guy, somebody that I would definitely want to be over the field on as well if you get him off the floor. But PJ Tucker would not be very appealing. Montrezl Harrell, considering 4,500, I'm kind of talking myself away from it. But a Paul Reed off the bench, fire that one up.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see where they end up going with the starting lineup for the Philadelphia 76ers. If we do see that there is no that there's no Joel Embiid for them, because I think Paul Reed or Montrezl Harrell, either of them can end up starting in this game tonight against the Pelicans. And the Pelicans also they have one of the bigger front courts in the NBA, Zion Williamson, and then they also have Jonas Valanciunas. Larry Nance out tonight, but either way, they end up playing bigger lineups more often than not, and that could influence some of the way that the Philadelphia 76ers end up running the rotations and who ultimately also ends up starting. So we'll find out a little bit more on that in a little bit. But first, shout out to No House Advantage, who is sponsoring today's show. If you guys have not signed up at NHA, if you use our link, you're going to get up to a $50 bonus on your first deposit and access to a ton of overlay that doesn't exist on FanDuel. It doesn't exist on DraftKings, but it does exist on No House Advantage because their contests are rarely coming close to filling. So if you want to take advantage of that overlay, sign up by using our link. And also at No House Advantage, they have props you can play against the house, and we have projections for those over at Stokastic as well. So if you're in a state where maybe you can't bet legally on sports, you might have access to props over at No House Advantage. All right, let's talk about the Golden State Warriors, because this is a team that I think is just impossible to avoid for today's slate. And I'm kind of trying to avoid right now just going position by position, because until we get the Joel Embiid news, Eric, I don't really know who I'm playing. So we're going to be talking about the Golden State Warriors and some of the players that are most important for them. Although we got a super chat here from Race Fan 22, Luka or LaMelo on DK, considering the price difference. So I have more exposure to Luka right now. And I do have LaMelo in my player pool as well, but Luka's one of these really hard ones to nail down, because if you just look at his total season production, the price tag is about fair. It's maybe even a little bit expensive on both FanDuel and DraftKings. But at the same time as well, his usage is so crazy high over the last week and a half that it's kind of hard to not project him better than he's been playing over most of the year from a fantasy standpoint, because the usage is regularly in like the mid 40% range as of late. So I like Luka as a pay-up option today. And something else that changed the amount of exposure I got to Luka as well is Evan Mobley being ruled out. The fact that we now have access to Karis LeVert and Kevin Love, and then all of the Warriors' value, it opened up the ability for me to pay up for Luka. If we didn't have value, it would have been hard to play Luka. And then I would have considered, either being underweight to him or fading him. But we have the value to get there. So I'm playing Luka. He's my preferred option.
I am with you. I think that it's easier to get to them. I do like both of them. Like, there are going to be lineups that I get to both of them. I bet both of them points plus rebounds plus assists. I thought both of them look good. They look good in the NBA Bet Pro as well. So he's got to double back. That's become a part of my process, is, checking in with a lot of the best minds here at Stokastic and how they're projecting these guys and kind of comparing it to myself. I didn't do some of the normal stuff that I normally do because I was driving across the state, but I definitely knew LaMelo Ball, as I was leaving the state of Arizona, that was a guy that I packaged with some Luka Doncic. So I really like getting to both pieces there. That makes some sense to me. Luka, not to box score watch, but somebody who has had 4 of their last 5 games, 80 or more fantasy points, seems like they might be playing better. Seems like they might be playing at a level that you want. 12-4 is pretty underpriced at the moment for what we're seeing out of him. Phenomenal matchup going up against Houston. Checks every single box you could possibly want.
Yeah, it's not like I'm all in on Luka or anything, but he's in 30% of my lineups right now, and I think he's a really, really strong payout option. And by the way, I even have some lineups with Luka and LeBron both in them. Those are my 2 favorite payout options. And once again, just this added value we have on the slate with Karis LeVert and Kevin Love makes it possible to get to both of them in some lineups. But let's talk about never mind. We got some questions in Discord. Then we'll talk about the Golden State Warriors.
Cool.
JEW, DK single entry, thoughts on Thomas Bryant? I would not be playing him in single entry today. He's got a great matchup for sure going up against the Charlotte Hornets. There's expected to be a ton of points scored in the game. I have a little bit of exposure to Thomas Bryant, but in terms of the center position, there's other guys I prefer to him. So for single entry, I would be looking elsewhere.
Yeah, Thomas Bryant just pisses me off. Of course, he just goes completely nuke when I don't even play the slate, really. That was pretty frustrating. 5,900. It's weird. I don't completely hate it the same way you do. I think that there is a path to it.
I have exposure to him.
You do? Okay.
I just said I wouldn't play him in single entry.
No. He's somebody that I have right around 12%, and I'm just fine with that. What is he currently? He's 13% owned. So yeah, he's fine. Nothing that I'm prioritizing.
Yeah. So the centers or players that are center eligible on DraftKings that I'm prioritizing tonight, Kevin Love, Kevon Looney, and Jared Allen. And we're about to talk about why Kevon Looney in a second, because he's been a guy over the last couple of years that Eric and I have not really played a whole bunch. But here's the difference with today. The Golden State Warriors have 9 active players. And of those 9 active players, some of them are guys who don't typically play a ton. So if you look at the Warriors today, their injury report, Iguodala's out, Jonathan Kuminga is out, JaMychal Green is out, Andrew Wiggins is out, James Wiseman is out, Steph Curry's out. So then at the end of the bench, you got, like Patrick Baldwin. He's going to be available. Moses Moody is going to be available. Ty Jerome. I would assume either Jerome or Moody are going to play somewhat extended minutes. But the core guys for the Warriors, Poole, Thompson, DiVincenzo, Draymond Green, Kevon Looney, I anticipate all of these guys playing extended minutes and more than they normally play. It's going to be hard for me to get away from the Warriors starters. They are popular, but I think it's certainly warranted on this slate because 9 active guys.
Yeah, well, they can maybe go to some Draymond 5, but for the most part, for me, the thing that stands out with Looney, I'm not getting to 38% of him. I will throw that out there right now. Like, he being the highest owned center, I think there's some other ways to go. We now have the Kevin Love and the Karis LeVert pieces. So there's that. We could be getting some.
I assume also when we get the next ownership update, Love is going to be more popular and Looney's going to come down a good amount.
Yep. I would assume that as well. So we'll be paying close attention to that. But as it stands right now, Kevon Looney, he's somebody that if you project around 26, 28 minutes, which is what you would kind of have. He's played 26 the last 2 here. I assume that he's going to continue to get about the same role here, going up against Kongwu, going up against Collins in that front court from Atlanta, even absent Capella. He's going to look good. He's a fantasy point per minute producer. He's sub 5K. And I like getting to him a lot. And I like getting to Jordan Poole a lot at the shooting guard spot because that just gives you more exposure to play the late swap game. There are a lot of basketball games, 10 going for tonight's slate, 11 total on the day. If you count that, just Knicks ridiculousness. Like, there are going to be some pieces of news that possibly show up as we go along. And you have 3 games in that evening window. So if I need to move some things around, I have some other swap ability that you don't always get on nights like this.
Yeah, and I see people in the chat also saying like, oh, Looney and Green, their minutes are probably going to be staggered. Honestly, I think both of them are just going to end up playing most of the game. Because if you look at the available big men for the Warriors today, it's Draymond, it's Looney, Patrick Baldwin, and that's it.
Yep.
I just think both Looney and Green are going to play really big minutes. So I like in both of them. I think both of them are pretty good options for today.
Is Patrick Baldwin in play?
Not for me. Like I said, I'm just projecting Looney and Green to play a bunch.
Okay, because I've kind of debated whether I want to take a shot like that. I'm not going to play Ryan Hollins. He's just impossible to get to. But Anthony Lamb is pulling a lot of ownership. We're talking 20% right now. I do expect that to come down with Cleveland as well. That's going to absorb a ton of ownership. But yeah, it's just another guy where if you're going to see Looney play 26, maybe you see a flat 3K Patrick Baldwin get to around 22, 23 minutes. That 23-minute one is a little wonky to look at. It was a massive blowout against Brooklyn. Seems to be happening a lot when teams play Brooklyn. But then he played 13 minutes against Utah at almost full strength there. I think you could be looking at some extra minutes possibly because he's played well the last 2. Maybe more of like the late night 3-game slate to be playing some.
Yeah, and by the way, I think Looney's just going to play north of 30 minutes.
Oh, then there you go. That would be the difference then, because I'm projecting Looney right now for around 28. We've got him at 26 minutes. I think that's phenomenal. Our guys are on it. They have been very, very solid with some of these minutes of late here with Kevon Looney and figuring out this Golden State rotation. It's a toughie, but I'm projecting Baldwin, I think, for a couple more minutes than probably you are.
Yeah, I'm trying to get some of the Warriors' recent games pulled up. But in the meantime, Supac double OP, Michael Porter, Gordon Hayward, or Jeremy Sochan at small forward on FanDuel. I think Gordon Hayward's a bit of an overlooked piece for this slate. The game environment is great in between the Lakers and the Hornets. The total is the highest on the slate by quite a wide margin. 241.5 is the current total in that game. And Hayward's played a ton in recent competitive games. So Gordon Hayward, the last game was a blowout, which does happen from time to time in Charlotte games, but this game only has a 2-point spread. In recent competitive games, and then also Kelly Oubre is out right now, Gordon Hayward's been playing 36, 37, 38 minutes. So I think he's a really strong looking play in the mid-range. I have 5,700 on DraftKings, 6,000 on FanDuel. He has multi-position eligibility. And yeah, here are these recent games for Hayward. Against OKC, he played 36 minutes. Against the Warriors, he played 37 minutes. Against Portland, he played 35. Like I said, there's no Kelly Oubre today. So I like the Gordon Hayward play tonight. Once again, Eric, those names, Michael Porter Jr., Gordon Hayward, Jeremy Sochan. Of those three, who is your preferred choice?
I almost want to go like door number 3 to like a Kyle Anderson, a Jaden McDaniels in that mid-range. The more I keep playing around with Minnesota, the more that I'm getting to them. If you don't have Naz Reid out there, yeah. I think that you could be looking at a couple extra minutes there. But with those listed availables, I would probably go the Jeremy Sochan route. I understand that it's a 13.5 point spread. It's now moved to 12, so that's decent enough. But actually, no, I'm actually with you. I think I will go the why am I just blanking on the same? The guy you just said, Hayward, Gordon Hayward, I think makes some sense. I think everything you just laid out there, I'm not in love with it, but yeah, between those three, that's definitely the one I prefer.
Yeah, Sochan's had some bigger games as of late, but one thing that is going to make a little bit of a difference for him is that they actually have their guys healthy right now. So Devin Vassell is playing today. He was out the last couple of games. Keldon Johnson is healthy. Yep. Jakob Poeltl is healthy. So we've seen games recently where Sochan has played extended minutes and he's done really well in those minutes. But it's also a tough matchup against the Nets, and he doesn't benefit from one of those guys being out. Like, we haven't really seen him have any of those big games when the whole team has been active. It's always been like, hey, Vassell's out, and now Keldon Johnson's out, Jakob Poeltl's limited. So we'll see what ends up happening with everybody healthy, but Sochan, not somebody that I'm going to be rostering today, although he has played extremely well as of late. By the way, are we going to get this? And what time are you going to get?
I'm stoked about it. Hang on. Why would you complain? I'm so happy.
No, I'm not complaining. I'm saying, what time do you think it's going to come out?
10 minutes before, because Glenn Rivers doesn't like the press, doesn't like the people. So I'm here for it. I'm here for Glenn Rivers debauchery today. People saying they don't want to play Paul Reed. I love it. I am so lined up for this slate. It's unbelievable.
We've had Sixers games in the past. We have not gotten Joel Embiid news when he was a game time decision until after the game locked.
Well, now that you said that, my sphincter sphincted. Now I'm not happy about it.
We've had that before. Yeah. Remember, there was the one also where he was expected to play and the game started and he just wasn't on the court and he didn't play. That was a couple of years ago.
Very fun. I love sports. That was fun.
Yeah. So we'll see what ends up. We'll see what ends up happening. 27 minutes to find out whether Joel Embiid plays or not. We don't know, but we'll find out in short order. Like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel for us too, guys, if you guys haven't done that yet. So I think we've gone over most of the important value spots of the slate, but let's try to go position by position for now and just point out any players that we believe that we're going to be on, kind of regardless of how the news breaks in the next 20 minutes. So for me at point guard, Jordan, I know we just talked about the Warriors, but we didn't talk about Jordan Poole specifically. I know that him and Clay are both priced up more than what we've seen over the course of the year, but considering how tight the rotations have to be for Golden State, I still like playing up for Poole and Clay, even though we're paying a premium for these guys, because the usage is going to be insane. And any minutes concerns about Klay Thompson earlier in the year, those are way gone now. And also Klay Thompson shooting the ball a lot better. He's playing better. So I really do like getting to both Poole and Thompson. Are these guard plays that you're getting to as well?
Yeah, I think that's one of the difficult, you talk about the people who watch the games and then the math nerds, and we find this like middle ground of trying to try to analyze it. Klay Thompson, by every metric, is just a different basketball player over the last month. Like, there's nothing that we've seen from Klay Thompson the first month of the season. I'm basically disregarding when I look at him. I just find him to be a far more appealing option because routinely 20 shot attempts now in 3 straight. We're looking at the ball going in the basket as opposed to not in the basket, which has been a problem in a lot of these spots. And as you said, the minutes going way up, 40, 38, 37. How do you not like him absent Steph Curry? I don't know, but 7,100. I talked about Jordan Poole at 8,200. I also love getting to Klay Thompson. I am nuking him up. Both of them north of 30% in my lineups. I don't expect to have all of those shares come the end of the night. And maybe we do get this Philadelphia news and James Harden is going to absorb a ton of that, especially now that news will come out later. But how can you not like getting there and then knowing that you have swappability throughout the night?
And by the way, I totally agree with you that we kind of have to throw out what Klay Thompson did in the first month of the season, because first month of the year, October, he shot 35% from the field, 29% from three. He was just simply not playing well at all. And something else that I think is pretty indicative about Klay Thompson playing better as the season has gone on and shooting better. So in the month of December, he shot 96.2% from the free throw line, a pretty good feel for the idea that somebody who shot 86% in October, 79% from the free throw line in November, just his shot probably feels better. I know that's not exactly the most maybe mathematical way to put it, but at the same time too, I mean, if you're shooting 96.2% from the free throw line for an entire month, it stands to reason that your shot and all the mechanics of it are pretty well in touch. And then also to the point you said before, month of December, he averaged over 20 shot attempts per game. Steph Curry remains out, shortened rotation, and the minutes for Klay, the last three games, 37 minutes, 39, and 40 minutes in the last three games. Klay, the injury issues, any kind of limitations with back-to-backs notwithstanding, he's good to go. So I like getting to Klay a whole bunch, and the same goes for Jordan Poole. But who are the other guards you have your eye on right now that we haven't talked about?
Yeah, so we talked about Luka Doncic. I think we should, at some point in time, have enough value to get around there. Donovan Mitchell just started to show up for me. I think that's pretty self-explanatory as well, that he's going to be a guy to get to here. James Harden, I have a little bit, just 10% waiting in the wings. That will become nuked immediately if Joel Embiid gets ruled out here. We have 24 minutes until lock. We'll be able to make some kind of decisions there. But I also think that you want to be on hold with a little bit of like D'Angelo Russell, a little bit of like this Minnesota situation, try to figure out what to do there. Not that Jalen Noel is a guy that I want to just jam, but he's now down to 4,200. We had seen that tag go up to around 49. It started to trail back. If he goes out and plays well, we've seen some times where he's gotten 30-minute plus run absent D'Angelo Russell. On the 30th of November, 31 minutes. We're looking at 34 minutes against OKC. He's the kind of guy, and I don't think this gets talked about enough, when somebody starts playing better or when they start playing well, like he really emerged a couple months ago as our primary guy off the bench, our instant source of offense for the Timberwolves. Now that the price has trailed off and people aren't really clicking on it, I think this would be the time to really fire up some 4,200 Jalen Noel, hope he gets hot. And then from a tournament perspective, that's kind of an unbeatable spot for a guy who's generally a fantasy point per minute producer.
Yeah, I could definitely see an angle for that. Now, obviously, we still need to get that D'Angelo Russell news because currently listed as questionable. And I want to add also, as we start to talk about some of the forwards, Kawhi Leonard is questionable, and it's in just a terrible time slot for somebody to be listed as questionable because it is an island game as the last start time of the entire night. So we talk about late swap at all a whole bunch here and how we are going to work with it on individual slates. This could be an important one. Kawhi Leonard being listed as questionable in a game that starts 30 minutes after any other game for the entire slate, and there's only 3 late games in general. What are you going to do to prepare for the Kawhi Leonard questionable tag, if anything?
So there's just not a lot to do other than play a lot of Golden State players, which are already good plays. So that's where I already had Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Dante DiVincenzo. All of these guys projected out well. I'm making it so there's a minimum 2. I probably don't even have to do that because I'm probably going to get to a lot of them as is. But for the most part, I'm not going to get on a 10-game slate. I'm not going to be getting more than 3 players from any team. I extended it to 4 from Golden State. I doubt that ends up staying the case. And part of it is that I'll be able to move that to other pieces. We have Detroit and Portland. That's a decent game environment. You do have Detroit, who's still playing without Killian Hayes. And I think, people know my love for Bojan. I can get to around a little bit of that, 6,200. Jaden Ivey, I think his points prop at 14.5 is so egregious for a guy who's had a 27% usage now without Cade Cunningham on the floor. I think he's somebody who could go out. And Alec Burks was just infinity percent owned on the last slate. He's at 13.8%. He's definitely over-owned here, but somebody who can go out and get a shot to go down. So I'm okay moving around some of those Golden State pieces there if I don't have that extra Clipper kind of piece of news. And then I'll have the ability to react to it. I already think Zubats is going dramatically underowned, 5,100. Nobody is playing him at 3.6%. I already want to play him. I'll probably get to more. Marcus Morris will show up. Norman Powell will show up. And Paul George will become probably the best play on the entire slate from a tournament perspective. And I'll probably move a lot of my Jordan Poole to him. So I'm just getting to a lot of these Golden State pieces, and it's going to work out.
Yeah, George is $8,600 on DraftKings, $9,000 on FanDuel, multi-position eligibility. And I totally agree with you as well from the standpoint of Hopefully we get the Kawhi news before 10 p.m. Eastern time. Like, it's a total disaster if it comes out, 15 minutes before that game starts. But I mean, I look through my lineups right now, and like you, and like I assume, by the way, Joel Embiid will play today. Yep. So with that. So he is going to be in.
Is there anything you like from Philly today other than him? Because I'm going to definitely play him now.
I don't even know that I like him.
I haven't projected for 56, and I think just because it's a 2% Joel Embiid, give me 10% of it.
I have him lower than that. I have him a couple fantasy points less than you. He's so expensive with center only eligibility. I think he just doesn't project well enough for me to really get him into lineups, especially when like my preferred pay up options, which is going to be the case for a lot of people, LeBron James and Luka Doncic today. I'm just not really going to have the space to jam in Joel Embiid.
We be jam on.
We not be jamming on him.
We not be jamming.
It certainly makes James Harden not appealing. Same goes for PJ Tucker. And the other thing also that matters here is that even though Tyrese Maxey is playing, limited minutes, he's still going to share the court for some minutes with Joel Embiid, and that's going to take away usage at some point. I think that's one of the other reasons also that I don't project Embiid super well relative to some other slates.
I think that's fine. For me, it's more of, I know he's going to be very, very, very low owned. And so in large field stuff, he's still got a bazooka ceiling. So I'm going to just get to a little bit there. I mean, doesn't take too far going back in the box scores to see 75, even alongside Mr. James Harden. I understand Maxey's out there, but he's going to be coming off the bench. At times I still think Embiid probably won't always be out there. He's going to play 20 minutes. That's not going to affect me as much. Do I think it takes away a little bit? Sure. But you just look at the center position and you see Joel Embiid there and you think he's going to be what? We've got him projected for 0.3. If he gets to like 2%, whatever, I think I'm okay getting to just a little bit. But that's legitimately the only thing I want to get to whatsoever now.
So let's actually, now that we have the Joel Embiid news officially, we're not waiting on any other news from the 7 p.m. Eastern time games. Let's try to figure out 18 minutes to go into lock, which players we're actually trying to get into our lineups and which players we're kind of okay filtering out and trying to wait for a little bit of late swap. So we've got Lakers, Hornets, we've got Bulls, Cavs, we've got Raptors, Pacers, and Pelicans, Philadelphia 76ers. Although first, I want to shout out that if you guys have not signed up at BetMGM yet, when you sign up by using our link, you are going to get 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum and a risk-free bet of up to $1,000. So if you guys haven't signed up at BetMGM yet, now is your time to get in the door and do it, and also take advantage of the 2-month free offer. And by the way, I forgot, we got some super chats here that I wanted to answer as well. And then we could talk about the 7 p.m. games. First, from Corey Shea, favorite 3 players on DraftKings for $3,800 and under. All right, $3,800 and under.
To the doldrums we go. Let me tell you, it's not pretty right now. Everybody's playing Anthony Lamb. That's just...
And if he doesn't start, I might end up swapping. So for now, for me, the answer is Jeremy Lamb. I mean, Anthony Lamb is certainly one of them.
Shout out Jeremy Lamb, though. Did we ever find out where he is?
He passed away.
No, we were talking about that the other day, and I can't remember what
I just told you.
Oh, that's not nice.
You shouldn't make fun of him, Eric.
He hit that amazing shot in Toronto. They just took him out.
Let's see.
Nice.
So Anthony Lamb. Nice. Anthony Lamb is going to be. I really have no clue.
Okay, good talk.
I believe that it was the Kings that had his rights, but who's to say?
I have no idea.
The problem is you try to look it up and nobody even cares enough to cover him. So that's true. That's also problematic.
My answer right now going to be Chetty Osman along with Anthony Lamb. And I don't have a third. I can't logically. I can't give you a third. There's not a third player to play.
I'll say Ty Jerome. There's potential for him to play extended minutes for the Warriors. They're so shorthanded that I think he's worth shots in tournaments.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
So that's where I'll go. But it's tough to find guys I love under 3,800.
I'm trying to decide if I can even give you another name. Yeah, Ty Jerome's fine. That's fine. Good work by you.
And I thought there was another super chat that came up as well. Here it is. It's Jorge Jacomi. Thoughts on Drummond today? pretty unnecessary for a slate of this size. Yep. And, Drummond's been a weird case. I know Adams played a lot of Andre Drummond this year, and there's certainly been times where it's worked out. And if there was a matchup where they were going to go back to playing Drummond and Vooch minutes alongside each other, I guess it would probably be the Cleveland Cavaliers and their bigger front court. But here's one of the issues. Derrick Jones Jr. is back for the Bulls, and we've seen Drummond be a DNP coach's decision in some of the games that he's been active for. Only 13 minutes last game for Andre Drummond. I know 3 games ago he did play 16 minutes and score 31 fantasy points in those 16 minutes. But Derrick Jones Jr. being back definitely hampers what I think the possibility is for Drummond.
Yeah, I can't do it today. I'm somebody who understands the case for it. Maybe Vooch also. Has Vooch ever gotten in foul trouble? It seems like I've been waiting for like the 22-minute Andre Drummond game, and maybe it's just never going to come. Maybe it's just never going to come in a Bulls uniform. We had 20 minutes is his high point. I think there is a 22-minute game back at the end of October. It's been a while. I get why you do it. He's a 1.3 fantasy point per minute producer. You do that on slates where there's no value. That's the time that I want to pull the Andre Drummond because it's hard for him to really burn you at 3,300 if he's going to play 14 minutes, 15 minutes. But that's also not winning you anything. Like 30 from Andre Drummond would be awesome, but it's so few and far between because you're never going to see that run because Vooch apparently just never gets in foul trouble.
To answer your question, by the way, about Vooch's foul trouble, he's in more than 3 personal fouls twice since November 4th. So over the last 2 months, it's happened twice. And he played, so one of the games was a blowout. So he still played 30 minutes in a game against the Suns, probably would have played close to normal minutes anyway. And then the game where he had 5 personal fouls against the Bucks, he still played 37 minutes in that game. So foul trouble doesn't exist for him, really.
It is insane. And it's nice when a prior you have just from watching the Bulls comes to fruition. I've been betting a lot of Levine, a lot of DeRozan props of late. And it's just like, I just want Vooch off the floor. And it's just, he's always on the damn floor. It's just ridiculous. So not that Drummond on the floor is just some fantasy substitute, but it definitely takes some usage away.
Yeah. So it's going to be hard to project him for minutes for those reasons. Like Eric said, Vooch never gets in foul trouble. And then we got Derrick Jones Jr. back, who sometimes plays those backup center minutes over Drummond. But let's get back to talking about what I was asking you before, which is who is it from these early games that you are actually trying to prioritize getting to when you consider that there's potential for a lot of value to open up in the later portions of the game? So to me, I'm just going to say the players that I can't go without, absolutely cannot go without: Kevin Love, Karis LeVert, LeBron James, and Jared Allen. Those are my 4 can't go without. Do you agree with them? And is there anybody else you would add to that list?
I can't go without some shares of Donovan Mitchell. I don't want to jam him by any means because I would like Paul George exponentially more and he's cheaper. But it's still Donovan Mitchell facing this putrid Bulls team that I think he's just going to be able to go out and chuck and do his normal stuff. But yeah, I'm on board with the exact same first 2, Karis LeVert, Kevin Love. I could probably live without Jared Allen. I'm a little bit under, I think, where you are on him. Still getting to him. Don't by any means. I've right around 10%. So I think that's going to be fine. And then LeBron James, another guy that I don't know if this is just kind of what I'm not sure what I'm necessarily looking at here, but it seems like Austin Reeves is a guy that just constantly, because of the minutes allotment and the shooting guard small forward eligibility, I get it. Did not look good. 26 minutes there against Atlanta last time out. Put a sub 10, played pretty bad against Miami too. But I'm telling you, just because of his shooting guard small forward eligibility and he's sub 4K, he's somebody, I get he's probably over-owned. If I go to the boom bust tool, it'd be almost impossible for to imagine a world where he isn't negative leverage. Yeah, negative 7.4%, but I'm still going to get to a little bit of him. Not that I can't live without him, but he's the last player that I actually want to actively try to get.
Yeah, so that was actually, we just had somebody in our Discord channel ask, it was Swaz wants to know, what are our thoughts on Austin Reeves and his ownership on FanDuel? So I'm going to be underweight to Austin Reeves, but I have exposure to him. He's not one of the players I would say that you need or that I can't live without, but so there's a second tier of players. I just mentioned the players that I think you absolutely need to have exposure to from the early window. For me personally, it's Love, LeVert, LeBron, Jared Allen. And then there's a next group of players, which is guys that I have in some lineups, but I don't necessarily need them to be in lineups. Donovan Mitchell is one of them. LaMelo Ball is another one. Miles Turner, Austin Reeves, Gordon Hayward. These are guys who are in some lineups for me, but are guys that I'm also, if you're only playing one lineup, I'd prefer to not have them in and wait for other news to break. So what else falls into that category that I laid out?
I would say Zach LaVine falls into that lineup or into that category. He's in a couple lineups for me. 7,400 shooting guard, small forward eligibility. It's so hard to get to DeRozan 9,200 now. It's kind of ridiculous, but he's the only Bull that I have any exposure to. And I think Cleveland, one of the things too, is that it's weird to me that this total hasn't really moved. When you look at Evan Mobley coming off the floor, their kind of version of the Twin Towers, him and Jared Allen, you put Karis LeVert out on the floor, you're going to be seeing more minutes of Chetty Osman, who we project around 26 minutes. These are both negative defenders. Kevin Love out there, definitely not swift of foot at this point in time in his career either. So I think Cleveland, more attackable. Specifically, they've always been pretty attackable on the perimeter. No Darius Garland out there. You're going to be seeing Donovan Mitchell, who's been a weak defender, it feels like forever. So I think you can definitely get to some Zach LaVine there as well. From the Toronto side too, let's not sleep on Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, both of them I have a little bit of exposure to, nothing crazy. Pretty much any slate you could play Pascal Siakam and I'd be okay with it considering the power forward eligibility.
So people want to ask us about Troy Brown Jr. now because is him starting. Austin Reeves is coming off the bench. We got that lineup a few minutes ago. To me, just because he's so I still prefer Austin Reeves. Troy Brown Jr. is, if you had him in lineups here or there, it's okay, but he's made starts this year and they've generally not gone well. So 17 starts for Troy Brown Jr. this year, 26 minutes per game, just under 17 fantasy points in those starts. Once again, he's so cheap that if you absolutely needed him to jam in LeBron and Luka in the same lineup, it's not the end of the world. But Troy Brown also, it doesn't make him a priority play.
No. Oh my God, no. Troy Brown, I mean, Austin Reeves, the thing is, he's the same player whether he starts or doesn't. Like he gets minutes based on how he's playing. It's kind of that typical fourth or fifth player on your team that just, if he gets going a little bit, you could see him play 30 minutes off the bench. We've seen that how many times throughout this season where he comes off the bench, plays 30, 33, 36. I'm just going through the box score on a couple of those. Then he has starts where he'll play 28, 26 minutes because it's just not going as well either. So for me, Austin Reeves still kind of the same dude. I hope the ownership comes down on him because I knew I was kind of making a bad play, but I wanted to get to more so I can get to the LeBrons, the Jokic's, the Doncic's. Yeah, Troy Brown, definitely not somebody at 0.63 fantasy points per minute that I want to prioritize in any way.
Got some more questions coming in. Also a super chat from Brian Brooks. He wants to know who are the top 3 value plays on FanDuel. So, always a little tricky because just value play, like what do we want to make the cutoff for a FanDuel value play? What should we say the price is?
FanDuel value play 4,500 and down.
All right. So 4,500 and down. If he starts, Anthony Lamb would be one of them.
Okay.
4,500 and down. I know he's not at that price point, but if Royce O'Neal ends up getting, do we get let's see. Did we get official word on Royce O'Neal? I didn't see that come across.
I didn't either because then I'm already going to play Ben Simmons today. So this is already my
Royce O'Neal is still questionable.
Simmons. I have a lot of Ben Simmons. I have 24% Ben Simmons today. I don't understand why he's sub 6%. I just don't. It's a guy
I was going to say TJ Warren's been playing extended minutes and taking a lot of shots as of late. If Royce O'Neal is ruled out, I think TJ Warren could make some semblance of sense, and Royce O'Neal still officially listed as questionable. So that would be another one for me. And then the final one, boy, it's tough. I guess Chetty Osman.
Yeah, I threw him out there earlier. Again, these are the doldrums down here. Nothing looks as good in terms of value on either side as what Kevin Love and Chetty Osman are going to look. It's just impossible. Now, there are things that could look better. You get Kawhi ruled out. We could get Norman Powell sub 4,500. I would think that would look pretty phenomenal too, even if he were coming off the bench. Zubats at 5,100 looks great. Marcus Morris, sub 5K, and Paul George, an underpriced stud. Like, there's a lot of things that I would have a lot of interest in going towards that side of it. Nicholas Batum's still a guy that I believe we're still waiting on word of from too. So you get him questionable ruled out and Kawhi Leonard ruled out. You get Terrence Mann. You get some opportunities for somebody else to show up and possibly be the guy. But like Norman Powell at 4,600 could rival, if you were to start, could rival what you're looking at from some of these others guys. He has had 31-minute upside recently here too, even off the bench. If he gets a start over, for Kawhi Leonard here in some way, shape, or form, unlikely. But I think Terrence Mann probably ends up starting. But I would like both of them. I would like shots on both of them.
And any more super chats? No, we've got all of those, but we do have some questions that came into our Discord channel. First, Kenny Wayne wants to know thoughts on OG Anunoby. He's much less appealing with Fred VanVleet back, and the minutes are still obviously going to be massive for him. It's a good matchup against the Pacers, but just other guys that I prefer to get to. So Anunoby is now priced to 7,000 on FanDuel and Anunoby on DraftKings 6,400. It's not the worst price in the world, but there's just players that are better points per dollar options, and the salary is about fair to me. So Anunoby, not somebody that I really think is a priority. We've got JEW wants to know, people are whispering about Patrick Baldwin Jr. Unnecessary, too risky.
I was whispering about him. I wanted to try it. I think there's random appeal there. I think Greg probably, just by his lack of interest and lack of enthusiasm backing me up there, I'm probably going to make it more of a late slate thing.
Yeah, it's if you're playing, he's not unplayable. I'm not playing him though. If somebody was to say they had Patrick Baldwin in 5% of lineups or something, I'd be like, okay, whatever, I get it. It's not the path I'm going down. Any sort of priority play, that would be a no for me though. And I think JW also, because typically when he asks us questions, he asks about single entry. I wouldn't play Patrick Baldwin a single entry.
No, God no.
Jaw 1224. Who is the overall best play for $3,900 or under on DraftKings? Let's see. Of all the players who are $3,900,
Royce O'Neal ruled out.
Okay, there we go. All right, so
Ben Simmons, how are you doing? TJ Warren, what's going on? Good to see you here.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to update this in the next 90 seconds, but TJ Warren, I just mentioned before that I liked him more if Royce O'Neal was going to be ruled out. So I think we can give more minutes to Ben Simmons and TJ Warren as well. Both of those are players that I like getting to. Is there anything else that we should add with Royce O'Neal not playing?
No. Yuta Watanabe could play a little bit more. That doesn't really matter to me as I'm going through it. TJ Warren, definitely the guy I think we want to be looking at the most here. I'm going to try to update this super fast.
Yeah. This is the benefit of not getting to a lot of exposure to the early games. I could kind of coast a little bit here.
Yep.
But yeah, TJ Warren, but the TJ Warren's one of my favorite value plays on the slate now.
Yeah, I think so too for me.
Yeah. I really like TJ Warren. Let me make sure that I don't have anything weird in my lineups before lock.
Oh, I have 100% Karis LeVert and Kevin Love. So there's that.
That's not weird. Let me
take one of these down.
That's not weird.
That's not weird. Okay.
I mean, looking at my lineups, be like, oh, I've got, if I had some dumb player from early games, which I don't. So everything looks good to me. Nothing that I need to change there. And by the way, we're approaching lock very quickly. We've got about 30 seconds to go here. If you guys have not done it already, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. The players you guys still need to be watching out for on the injury report. We just got the Royce O'Neal news, but still, there's big news to come later on the night because we have Kawhi Leonard questionable. We have D'Angelo Russell questionable. We have Yusuf Nurkic questionable, and Naz Reid is also questionable. So there's some players that could shape things later on the day. So make sure that you guys are staying attuned to all the news over on Twitter. But once again, before you leave, one more time, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you guys very much for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow.